Annunciation Radio presents Say Yes to Life with Peter Range, Senior Fellow for Strategic Initiatives at the Center for Christian Virtue.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Say Yes to Life, where we learn to embrace our Catholic faith in the secular world. I'm your host, Peter Range, Senior Fellow for the Center for the Christian Virtue, and welcome to show number 447 as we continue the fight for every single human life, born, preborn, and yours in our world today. This is the best show that no one's ever heard about. I don't know if anybody's listening. No, I'm just kidding. Welcome to all our listeners in Ohio and Michigan. Great to have you on the show. Today's show, we're excited to welcome Kelsey Prichard. Kelsey is the State Public Affairs Director for SBA Pro-Life America. She serves as a spokeswoman for SBA and works with SBA's State Affairs team to shape the narrative on abortion policy and politics in the states. She's been published, interviewed, Fox, CNN, The Blaze, Andrew Wilco, Newsweek, The Federalist, CBN, EWTN, New York Times, you name it. She's been on it. Kelsey previously served as communications director for South Dakota Governor Dennis DeGarde, who's the most popular governor in the U.S. during his second term. She joined SBA Pro-Life America after spending 4 years in the private sector working in the ad industry. And she is now the mom of 3, her most important title, 2 energetic little boys. And I know how that goes. I've got 4 little energetic boys and a sweet baby girl. She and her family live in western South Dakota. Kelsey and I are going to be talking about her life, the FDA, the upcoming midterms, and more in just a minute. But first, let's go ahead and take 180 seconds around Ohio and the nation to talk about what's happening in the pro-life movement and the news. First, from Life News. As the federal government shutdown stretches now into its 15th day, reports from Capitol Hill and the White House suggest that the impasse won't end anytime soon, with the Trump administration refusing to budge on the Democrats' demand of expanding COVID-era Obamacare subsidies and other spending by $1.5 trillion. According to a report from Punchbowl News, the administration appears to be finding new sources of federal dollars in order to fund kind of critical functions, such as paying for federal law enforcement officers, for WIC, all because of the tariff revenue, which that's good news. But during the week on Capitol Hill over the weekend, House Speaker Mike Johnson underscored just how painful the shutdown is for civilian federal employees. We have 1.3 million active duty service members, men and women in uniform, who will not be paid. They're going to miss a paycheck. Real hardship for families who live paycheck to paycheck. This is not a game. It certainly is not. So let's pray for Republicans and Democrats to do something together for once. I don't know. Sean's laughing. All right, second from Live Action News. On October 7th, the U.S. Supreme Court heard oral arguments presented in, I'm going to mispronounce this, Childs versus Salazar, a case challenging Colorado's attempt to prohibit conversions between counselors and minor patients who voluntarily seek therapy treatment for gender dysphoria, hoping to become comfortable with their biological sex. Instead, the law disallows counselors from advising clients in any direction other than affirming the person in the gender identity that is not aligned with their biological sex. So this could affect pro-life groups who are concerned that if Colorado's conversion therapy ban is upheld, government-required speech could eventually be forced upon pro-life groups like Pregnancy Resource Center, saying you have to, refer out for abortions and stuff like that. So pray for that case at the Supreme Court as well. All right, third and finally, if you're close to Putnam County, Ohio this Saturday, join us at 10 a.m. at the Ottawa Rex Pavilion. I'm very excited to be joining one of the most pro-life counties in Ohio for the Walk for Life to stand for the preborn this weekend. We had thousands in Columbus 2 weeks ago for the March for Life, and we hope hundreds show up there in Putnam County this weekend. Supreme Court Justice Pat Fisher will also be joining us, much more important speaker than I am. But speaking of great speakers, Nick Check from Students for Life will also be there, but great speakers is next. Kelsey Prichard. Kelsey Prichard is the State Public Affairs Director for SBA Pro-Life America. We love SBA Pro-Life America. She serves as a spokeswoman for SBA and works with SBA's State Affairs team to shape the narrative on abortion policy and politics in the states. Kelsey, welcome to Say Yes to Life.
Thanks for having me, Peter.
Yeah, so let's just start with your story. Where'd you grow up? How did you meet your husband? Land at SBA? And if you're comfortable, if you want to share anything about your faith, we love people of faith here on the show, but no pressure, whatever you want to share.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I have spent most of my life in Nebraska and South Dakota, and I've been various places. I lived in Texas for a while in D.C., but South Dakota is mostly home to me. now. And I actually became pro-life when I was in middle school. I had a civics teacher assign me to the pro-life side of an argument, of a debate, and I had never heard of abortion. And as I learned about it, it made me pro-life personally. And I actually, when I became a Christian in high school, went on to become politically involved, and then started a Students for Life group on my campus. And I prayed the prayer that a lot of people have prayed, asking God, how would you use me in this fight? And I've seen different parts of my life where he's dragged me into it, thankfully. But this has just been this job that I've had the last couple of years, has just been a clear calling of what he had in mind when I prayed that prayer, asking for him to use me.
Yeah, well, you're at a great spot. Where did you meet your husband along the way?
We met in college, and we went to a small Christian college in eastern South Dakota. And he's actually from the UK, and was there on a golf scholarship, went all the way to small town South Dakota to play golf in college, and we got married shortly after college. And we have 3 kids, and I'm actually pregnant with our 4th. We've got another boy on the way.
Praise the Lord. That is wonderful news. Back to your husband real quick. Was it the accent? Did that get you? I mean, how did he win you over?
I think so, but this ties back to my story too, that before I was a Christian, I was in a lot of really bad, broken relationships as a young teenager even. And when I was 14, I was in an abusive relationship, and the boyfriend thought I was pregnant, and he was telling me that I would have to get an abortion, and because I was so small, the baby would kill me. You would have to, he said, Kelsey. And I was not pregnant, but I think had I been, I might have, even though I was pro-life, had that abortion, because I was just in that abusive, toxic relationship. And so that really gave me I think, a perspective of compassion toward women in long term. But it also, as I became a Christian, finding my husband, who is just the nicest person in the world, is just been such a blessing. After what I went through when I was younger, and he's an amazing person. I'm just blessed to have him as my husband.
Well, praise God, and I'm happy he has you as well. But it does make me think a lot about the important role, like how God has made us complementary to each other, and the important role, and you'll see this in CareNet studies and Heartbeat International studies as well, the important role that the father plays even in the women's decision-making process when she's thinking about having an abortion. If the father is there to say, look, I am going to be a husband to you and a father to this child, how much less apt the woman is to have an abortion. 80% of the women having abortions, at least here in the state of Ohio, are single. The father's not in the picture. And so the woman feels isolated, alone on an island. She feels often as if she has no other choice. But if you have the man there to step up and say, yeah, I'm going to do this with you. I mean, that's the way that God has designed this relationship to be, but we can go off on different tangents there, and I often do. So I apologize, Kelsey, but congratulations. I want to have your husband on. Is your husband close by? I love the British accent, but I digress. Let's go to number 2.
He's at work. He's actually a dentist, so he probably wouldn't appreciate if I interrupted him.
No, that's okay. Well, we'll have him on the show another time. But let's go to the FDA is driving me nuts right now. They announced one week that they're going to investigate the abortion pill, mifepristone, and see, if in fact the Ethics and Public Policy Center's study is correct, that it's creating much more havoc on women than has been reported in the past. And then in the meantime, they approve a new generic mifepristone. So Kelsey, what is going on here? What is the FDA doing?
Yeah, so a week after they told pregnant women to not even take Tylenol, they approved this new drug with the sole purpose of ending the lives of unborn children. And that was shocking to those of us in the pro-life community, especially those who have been following along with the promises from Secretary Kennedy himself. He said that the Biden administration twisted the data on abortion drugs. And they did that for political reasons. He even cited the study that we've been talking about that shows as many as 11% of women suffering serious effects like hemorrhaging, infection, and sepsis. And so it was very counterproductive and shocking that the FDA would approve a new abortion drug when they should be studying this and making that a priority. And also the fact that they've continued this Biden administration rule that allows for the mail order of abortion drugs. That means that you can be anyone and you can get the drugs through the mail. You don't have to be pregnant. You don't have to be a woman. These pills get in the hands of abusers, traffickers all of the time. And they have let that rule stand instead of revoking the Biden rule. And so we've been saying they must immediately reverse course. They must end this Biden rule today. They can end it today. And they need to make this study a priority.
Yeah, I think it points a lot to the spiritual warfare that's taking place in the country right now, even within the administration. I think you have some tremendous pro-life individuals who really deeply care about the pro-life cause. But then you have, just like the Republican Party as a whole, the conservative movement as a whole, you have a lot of people that don't care deeply about this issue and quite frankly would like to see the Republican Party and the conservative movement not touch this issue at all because they think it's not good for elections. And I think, and I know that some people, including SBA, and we want to, encourage President Trump, and we might, even say, look, he's the most pro-life president ever. I think sometimes we've set the bar too low, and you don't have to comment on this because, look, Marjorie, for example, is awesome, and I love the way that she runs SBA and everything of that nature. But at the end of the day, we need the administration. And President Trump, this is his last term. What a gift it would be to the pro-life movement if he really pushes Bobby. I can't call him Bobby. I mean, Secretary of Health and Human Services. I don't know him that, but we need the administration to be a pro-life administration. I think the abortion pill is taking more lives than anything else in this country right now. 70%, I've seen some studies now, of all abortions are taking place. And a lot of times it ends up being the father of the child who's buying this pill and he's pressuring the women to get an abortion. But with all that being said, let me just say I'm frustrated with the FDA. I'm frustrated with the administration, and we got to continue to just put pressure. So that's why I'm thankful SBA does that, not only publicly, but I'm sure behind the scenes as well. Let's talk about a good thing the administration did, the funding of Planned Parenthood. So in early July, President Trump signed the One Big Beautiful Bill. That was genius, by the way, whoever thought about that. But because even when the media is reporting on it, they have to call it the One Big Beautiful Bill. But with that being said, now, of course, lawsuits have ensued. But what results have come, albeit, it's just a 1 year defunding, but that's still a historic defunding nonetheless. What results have you guys been watching across the country?
Yeah, at this point, there are 42 Planned Parenthoods that have closed their doors this year or that will soon this year. And that's a direct result of defunding. And what that did was end the Medicaid funding that abortion businesses get in this country, and that amounts to about $529 million annually that Planned Parenthood has been raking in. It's been propping them up. It's the American taxpayer is the reason essentially why Planned Parenthood has been able to keep its doors open in many places. And of course, they like to pretend that they're there for women's health care, but we know that's not true. We know that the number one thing they do is abortion, and I think it's 97% of the time a pregnant woman walks into a Planned Parenthood, she gets an abortion, and so that's what they exist for. They exist to sell abortions. They exist for gender transitions, and not only are they killing unborn children, but they're hurting women in the process. Mm-hmm. And there was this New York Times article that came out basically saying that they've been botching care for women, even on the front of birth control, like IUDs. They can't do basic things like clean their bathrooms and address sewage leaks. And so I think it's been amazing to see the results of Planned Parenthoods actually closing around this country. And in turn, women getting much better care, women who are on Medicaid getting much better care. from community health centers. And I know in Ohio alone, I think we've seen 3 Planned Parenthoods that have shut. So just great to have a pro-life victory in Ohio and in various states across this country.
Yeah, certainly very blessed to receive the news of whenever Planned Parenthood closes. I want to push you or get your thoughts on this, though, because I've also read a bunch of articles that Planned Parenthood for some time has been planning to switch more to telehealth versus kind of their brick and mortar facilities. So could you, I mean, I don't know if this question even makes sense, but could you put a percentage to it? How much is it the funding of Planned Parenthood versus, Planned Parenthood had this planned switch to more kind of a focus on telehealth, less brick and mortar facilities? I mean, I guess how much should we be celebrating the pro-life movement? Do we feel like, yeah, this is because of the differences that we've made through the big, beautiful bill? Or is this some of it's like, well, no, 30% or 40% is like, this is what they were planning to do anyway? What are your thoughts on that?
I think a lot of the coverage and the reporting shows that it is because of that bill or because of the Title X funding that was frozen by President Trump. You're right, though. They were planning to pivot. They're not stupid. And they've been, I think, wanting to shift more to this kind of virtual model where they have fewer brick and mortar operations. And so we have to recognize this as a win. I think it definitely is a win. Every Planned Parenthood that shuts is a win. But at the same time, know that they're adapting. And again, that's why this makes the abortion drugs fight so important. And it makes it so important that we end this Biden rule that allows for the mail order of abortion drugs, because that's how they're going to continue to ship these things into red states that have pro-life laws, and how they're going to continue to increase the number of abortions in this country.
Yeah, we have no idea where these darn pills are coming from. That's the other thing, too. It's like, it's just scary whether they're coming from China or another country. Who's making them? I've heard so many horror stories already about the damage that these pills are doing to women. So that makes elections really important as well. And Kelsey, I've gotten myself in so much trouble so often because I always work for like a nonprofit, Annunciation Radio. We're a nonprofit here, so I can't really take sides, although I do. And then I get my hand slapped and I got to come back. So anyway, I might be looking for a job someday. With that being said, the midterms is really important. It is important. Doesn't matter what party you're part of, but it matters let me say this. One party, the Republican Party, has pro-life at least still in their platform a little bit. The Democratic Party does not have a pro-life platform. They have a pro-choice platform, pro-abortion platform. That's not controversial. But it makes elections really important. You have to elect pro-life politicians, okay? Whether they're Democrat, Independent, or Republican, more often than not, they are going to be Republican. So tell me, though, how SBA Pro-Life America is engaging the fight. And are there races you guys are really watching more closely than others? I'm looking at the Virginia's governor race. Seems really interesting to me. And I don't know if you saw it the other night, but I can't remember her name, so I apologize. But it's the Democratic nominee for governor, not disavowing or not taking away her endorsement of someone who also in the race for, I believe, AG there, who's talking about, it's okay if we kill our opponents. Really great stuff. But with all that being said, what's SBA doing in the midterms? What are your guys' thoughts there? What races are you watching?
Yeah, we've been in a number of states this year already, starting our midterms operations. We've already visited 400,000 pro-life and persuadable voters in those states this year.
Wow.
We're going to hit at least 500,000 probably at the end of this month, because we find it really important to start engaging early on the midterm, on elections generally. We have been in Virginia. That's one of the states where we've been present. And actually where we've focused in Virginia is the legislature races and the House of Delegates specifically, because we essentially need to stop. They have a pro-abortion amendment there that is similar to what unfortunately was passed in Ohio. And so their process, they have to pass that amendment out of the House and the Senate. Doesn't matter who's governor. The governor doesn't have a say in it for that amendment, and then it goes to the voters. So we've been doing what we can to get a majority of Republicans in the House of Delegates to stop that from becoming the law in Virginia, because I think it's going to be really hard to stop all of the money that's going to funnel into Virginia if that's on the ballot 2 years from now. So very important things happening there. Their election, of course, is less than a month away now, so everybody's watching Virginia and to see what happens in the AG and governor's race as well. And then we're really engaged in a lot of Senate races, specifically in Georgia, Michigan, North Carolina right now. And we announced today that we're also in Iowa engaging in some of their House races. Because the sad truth is that the pro-life Democrat has essentially gone extinct.
Yeah.
It's really hard to find someone who will say they're a pro-life Democrat and vote pro-life. And so what we are really working hard on is electing Republican pro-life majorities in the House and the Senate so that we can defund big abortion again next year, and so we can continue to make progress on this front. And also, it's a reminder to Republicans that they can't win without their pro-life base. They
Amen.
have to have pro-life voters show up. Otherwise, they won't be reelected. And so it's not only SBA's job to remind them of that, it's everyone in the pro-life movement. Remind your candidates, your elected officials that so they don't take our issue and the issue that they should hold most dear and as one of their top priorities, and follow, not just be pro-life in what they say, but pro-life in what they do and their actions in office.
Yeah, that's right. So all those elected officials listening right now, I want you to know you need me. You need me on your court, at least in the primary. So better be nice and better vote pro-life. And let me just say this. You can call yourself pro-life. And just if you're anti-abortion, that's an okay thing to do. And look, we want to promote, and I have promoted, and I live a consistent ethic of life. However, with that being said, when you look at the proportion of people that are murdered and killed through the abortion issue, there is no comparison compared to any other issue, whether that be immigration, whether that be capital punishment, whatever it might be. You are pro-life when you say that I am against the murdering of children in the womb. I just felt like that needed to be said. All right, we got 2 more questions here. I'm going to tell you what the last question is going to be because I didn't prep you with this before, Kelsey, but I like you, and I can just tell it by talking a little bit. I want to know what you think is the root of this issue and how we get to it. But before you answer that, let me ask you what we do as the everyday Joe and Jane listen to the program right now in Ohio and Michigan. How can they engage right now in a really impactful way in this pro-life movement? And one way, I think, immediately, I know Michelle Ashley, she works for SBA, has been in Ohio a lot. One way SBA can benefit is, guys, donate to them. They need finances like every other pro-life organization. So donate to SBA. But what are some other ways people can engage?
Yeah, this may sound like a routine small thing, but this is actually the biggest thing you can do, is pray and ask God how he would use you in this fight, because we can't win this fight. We can't win any part of this fight
Amen.
Without God. We have a culture against us. The devil, of course, is against us and working against us every single day. And so it's going to take us all on our knees asking God, how would you use us in this fight? And, he might answer in varying ways.
Yeah.
He might say, give to a pro-life group. He might say, join a canvassing effort so you can go door to door. He might say, just talk to your friends, talk to your family about this, have the conversations, or volunteer at the pregnancy center that's nearby, or come alongside the girl or the woman who's pregnant unexpectedly and the father's out of the picture. I think there's so many different ways that God can use us that I could never list off, and ways that are personal to you, that he's wanting us to ask him the question so that we can then join the fight in the way that it will someday end abortion. I think that we also have to have faith and pray in faith that God would end abortion. It's not going to happen overnight. It's not going to happen in the next decade, but keep praying and believing for that as well.
Amen. Well stated. And I think starting and ending with the most important thing we can do, prayer can move mountains. And I think we in the American church are sick. We're ill. We don't believe in miracles anymore, but we have to. So 3 minutes. I'm glad we have enough time to at least tap into this. And then Kelsey, if you've enjoyed the show, you're welcome back anytime. We can finish the conversation. But what do you, so I know what I think it is, but I'll let you speak and I'll tell you if you're right or wrong. No, I'm just kidding. I won't do that. But what do you think is the root? I mean, how do we, it's one thing to say, okay, we're going to outlaw abortion. Great. And we should do that. And we need to do that. I mean, you do that from a legal perspective. The law is a teacher. It teaches us what is good, true, and beautiful. But at the end of the day, there's also going to be a demand to a certain extent for abortion. How do we get to the root of it? Or what are your thoughts on where this came from?
Well, I think I have two different thoughts, I guess, that come to mind. And the first is that it comes down to, I think, a disagreement on whether the child in the womb is actually a child. Is it just a clump of cells? Is it not a baby? Or is it, in fact, a baby? And so I think that's the heart of a lot of it. But at the same time, ultrasound technology has improved. Things have improved. The science is pretty clear. And despite all of those things, we still have this growing abortion movement and hold on our country and our culture that doesn't make sense in a lot of ways. And that's why I think it just all comes down to a spiritual battle. I think it all comes down to what God says about children in the womb versus what the world says and what the devil is doing in our country and in people's hearts. And so, again, I'm going to go back to prayer because we can't win a spiritual battle without being on our knees and without believing in miracles and without humbling ourselves and asking God how to use us, because this fight is so much bigger than any one of us, and it's going to take a lot to finally end abortion.
It is. We're fighting demons. I think it was Dr. Peter Kraft from Boston College said that this, abortion issue, it ultimately comes from the pits of hell. And so it starts with Satan, it starts with his minions. And then I think he's destroyed our idea and our understanding of sexuality and its purpose, its meaning, its teleos, its end, its purpose. And you're right, it's Genesis 1:27. God gave us a commandment, be fruitful and multiply. And that's exactly what the devil's attacking when he attacks innocent human life in the womb. Kelsey, I've really enjoyed the conversation. Blessings to you and your upcoming pregnancy as well. Baby number 4, so tremendously exciting. God bless you. And thanks again for coming on Say Yes to Life.
Yeah, thank you. God bless.
Yeah, God bless. Real quick, Kelsey, where's the website? Where can we get more information on SBA?
SBAprolife.org.
SBAprolife.org. There you go, folks. Continue the fight and continue to say yes to life.